Hello everybody, welcome to Talk About Houses. I'm Todd.
I'm Oana.
So we're going to talk about the foreclosures, specifically notice of default, notice of trustee sale. Now we have the numbers. Now these are the numbers for all of last year. Now we did a video a year ago, and there's this thing out there where people are saying the foreclosures are coming and that's going to crash the market. Foreclosures always crash the market because that's what happened back in the past. All right. So before we go into the numbers, because the numbers are going to shock you, so you have to watch all the way to see the shocking numbers. We're going to, Oana, who has done a couple thousand foreclosure property REOs from the banks, we're going to talk a little bit about the process. Okay, so a homeowner's got their mortgage, they stop paying it, some time lapses, the banks say you missed a couple payments. They go file this thing. What's the first thing they file?
Notice of default. That means that you are in default of your mortgage agreement, your loan agreement. There's a breach there, and that's usually because a payment hasn't been, or one or more payments have not been made. Okay,
all right. So they filed the notice of default. Now, people call that being quote unquote in foreclosure. It's part of the sort of, you could call it part of the foreclosure process because it's a, and this is all for Clark County, Southern Nevada, but similar in most places, how this works. Okay, we have non-judicial here. It doesn't go before a judge, it just happens. Statutory. Okay, so 90 days after the notice of default is filed, this other thing can get filed. What is that called?
So that's the notice of trustee sale.
Okay.
That means that they are letting you know that they're going to go ahead and foreclose and take the house back.
Okay, and then it's 28 days, which is a weird number, but there's a reason for it, right? Because 90 days, it doesn't have to be filed exactly on the 90th day. Just 90 days has to have passed. So you could be talking to them for, we saw REOs where they filed the NOD and they waited 2 years to file the notice trustee sale, right? But the reason it's 28 days is because they're trying to line up weeks, Mondays to, so remember these filings don't happen on the weekend, they only happen during the week. So if they file, they don't want to file on like a Thursday and not be able to, like in Saturdays maybe the day it's, so it's basically 28 days because that's 4 weeks, right?
Right.
Okay, what happens after 28 days if they go to the trustee sale?
So there's basically an auction at the trustee sale, and one of two things happens. Either somebody buys the property at the trustee sale, or the lender basically buys it back for the note. Okay.
Now, let's say somebody buys it at the trustee sale. Most of the time, what do? Let's say that it's a $500,000 house and they buy it for $400,000.
So this is a really fun thing. So they show up and they've got their cashier's checks, and they bid what they bid, and they get the house for $400,000. At the end of the process, they go ahead and they go up to the clerk and they start counting off their cashier's checks. Now, they'll have cashier's checks in multiple denominations because they're not going to give a whole lot of change back. So that's kind of a fun process. So you see people up there with cashier's checks, you know, in denominations of 100,000, 200,000.
It's like monopoly money.
Exactly. It's, you know, 20,000, 5,000, 1,000. So it's really kind of fun to watch that process.
And it can't be cash.
No, it cannot be cash.
We're going to get to the numbers in a second, but this is kind of fun. So the foreclosure, some of the time the bank takes it back, it becomes a bank-owned home. Bank sells it as a foreclosure through an agent, comes on the market. What happens if an investor buys it usually?
So sometimes an investor buys it, and so that investor, remember I was talking about with the monopoly money with the cashier's checks, so that investor will buy it. And so we're not going to really talk about first trust deeds and second trust deeds right now. We're just going to talk about first trust deeds. So the investor buys it, and for our purposes, he owns the property. It goes through sort of an abbreviated escrow in the sense that there is a title company involved, and he will get clear title. He will have to pay some escrow fees and title fees and that sort of thing. But remember, he's already paid for the full purchase price of the property right then and there.
It wipes out the deed, so he owns it.
So he wipes out whatever was owed on the property, and so he owns it. And then the next thing that happens is he'll go ahead and go visit the property. If it's occupied, then he'll go ahead and have a conversation with the occupants, whether they want to stay, they want to rent, what do they want to do.
We've done this hundreds of times.
If they want to stay, then he'll work out a rental agreement with them. If they don't want to stay, then he'll work out an agreement for them to vacate. If they're non-responsive, then he'll go ahead and go through the eviction process to get them out. So all kinds of different things. What's interesting in Nevada is that we do have this process, like Todd said, where you basically go to the courthouse and hand over cashier's checks and you own the property. So it's kind of interesting. There are lots of interesting stories, and maybe we'll do a separate video about that, about people's stories about what happened when they showed up to visit their new property. So stay tuned for that, because we'll do another video on that. We have some great stories about that. But that's basically the process. The investor now owns the property and takes control of it.
Okay, so here's we're going to go through numbers in a second. But here's the important thing about what Juan is conveying to everybody. The foreclosure is not necessarily this horrible thing that decimates the market, because it could turn into a rental, meaning that the person who got foreclosed could just stay in there as a tenant. Maybe the investor wants to keep the house. Hedge funds have been known to do this. They don't always flip them. Mom and pop investors tend to flip them. But even if they flip them, it goes in the MLS and gets sold. And it doesn't get sold at a ridiculously low price, because they're trying to make as much money as they can. They sell it for market value. So it's a myth that foreclosures are somehow cheap sales. You can buy it cheap at the trustee sale, but the appraisers and other agents don't really care about that, because those are not market value appraisals or sales. They all they care about is when it goes in the MLS and it sells through the regular market.
Right.
Okay.
So in order for a property to sell for market value, it has to actually be on the market. And because a property being sold at the trustee sale is not really on the market, because it is not available for everybody, right? You can't use a loan, you can't use cash.
You have to decide instantly.
So it's a different process. So that is not countered. We don't count that as fair market value.
Okay. All right. So we have about 400,000 residential units in Clark County, okay? And I'm going to put up the first notice of default. This is the first thing that happens when people are behind in their mortgage. And the numbers here, now this is for the whole year. So if you start on the left, that's January of 21. And if you go all the way to the right, that's December of 21. So it's all of 2021. Now, as you can see, for most of the year, it was about 60 to 70 a month. NODs, okay? And then it rose a little bit, but it's never over 200 a month. So it never got over very many a day, 5 a day maybe, right? Okay. We used to see this many a day, 200 to 300 notice of defaults a day. We have less notice of defaults today in a month than we had in one day in 2007, 8, 9. Okay, substantially different. I'm going to go to the next slide here. This is the next two things that Juan to discuss. Notice of trustee sale. Now, remember we were looking at numbers between 70, which is a couple a day, and under 200. Okay. Now, less than half of those actually go to trustee sale.
Right.
And why are some reasons why they wouldn't end up at trustee sale?
So they don't go to trustee sale because the borrower and the lender work something out.
Okay. Like what?
Well, they either do a payment plan, or they maybe do, maybe the borrower sells the property and then the lender's paid off. So there are all kinds of reasons why the property does not go to sale. But most of them don't, and particularly not in this market where everybody and his brother has equity. You put a property on the market and it sells for 10% over list price. It's not unusual. So in this market, it's actually almost difficult to get foreclosed unless you're trying, because most people have equity. That's not to say that every single person has equity, but I would say that the vast majority do.
Okay, here's the bottom line. We're going to talk about trustee deeds, which were actual sales after this. The charts are up there, and you can just look at the numbers. If you have everyone has equity. Like if you bought your house 6 months ago, you could sell it, pay all the realtor's fees, pay the title and escrow fees, and make money. Okay, that's how much the market's moving. It doesn't matter how behind you are in your mortgage, the market has appreciated far greater than what you're behind. And even if you say, I don't care, I just want to get out of here, some investor will come buy your house and get you out pretty quick because there's equity that they can tap. So even if you're days from the actual trustee sale, they can buy the house and just pay everything off, and then you can leave. So it's not that of a terrible thing. Okay, it's not, and that's what's happened in the market. Okay, now we're going to go trustee deeds. So you see the worst month for actual trustee sales was June. There were 88. That's how many notice of trustee sales. That's when the 28-day clock starts. The most actual trustee deeds in any month was 35. That's like one a day, basically. Okay. The average, though, if you look at this chart, you see a lot of 21s. You see an 18 is like low 20s. Okay, that's less than one a month. We'll call it one per working day. So like on Monday, you go to the trustee sale, a property gets auctioned off, and then you go on Tuesday, a property gets auctioned off. Out of 400,000. It's effectively nothing. Right. It's zero, because you can't say, oh, well, it's one, it doubled, it went to two. That's noise. That's not signal. Okay. So the pre-foreclosure activity, which we call notice of default, is literally still zero in the scheme of things. Now remember that we only had maybe 300 to 350,000 housing units 10, 15 years ago when we had the foreclosure mess. And we were having probably 60 sales a day at the trustee sale. 60. 20 would get bought, and 40 would end up going back to the bank. They wouldn't get bought. They would just go back to the bank. They would come in the market as bank-owned homes. The other 20, most of them got flipped. Right. They would flip them and everything. And that's what caused all the homes at the housing to push up the inventory. Right.
So, one of the reasons why we have such low foreclosures is because the market is different. It is so much different than it was then. First of all, we don't have these 125% loans that we had back then. Second of all, we have much tighter lending requirements. So it's harder to get a loan. So it's more likely that people are able to make their payments. And then the other reason is we have so many more investors in the game who are purchasing these homes from mom and pops who are sending out postcards of "We buy ugly houses" to institutional investors. There's just so many more players that are intervening between those places where people are having difficulties. Maybe they're not even behind yet, but they're going to fall behind. These people don't even have the opportunity to fall behind because there are so many opportunities for them to go ahead and sell the property and get out from under, maybe get some money and get on with their lives.
Now, we are not saying that prices will never go down.
No.
We are saying that what we are seeing right now is different than what we saw in 2006, where listing inventory started climbing. It's still declining. And we started to see these notice of defaults happen, like in large numbers. And I did a video 2 years ago that said the housing market wouldn't crash. Everyone thought it was crashed because as soon as COVID hit, it was going to crash. And then the beginning of last year, of 2021, I did another video, and all the other people were saying it was going to crash. Foreclosures were coming because all these people, and they counted like the 4.8 million homes in default nationwide, which over an 8-month period dropped by like 70%. It dropped like 1.7 million or less, and it actually dropped to like normal levels in 8 months. Right. So, and that happened for a lot of reasons. We all know that the banks were legislated into having to do workouts with people. They had to put any
any payments that were missed on the back end and that sort of thing. So they had to do workouts with people. So we know that was part of the reason. The other part of the reason was the banks learned their lesson from the last time around. They did not want to be the bad guy again. And they also learned that it was not profitable the last time around to foreclose. So they've learned how to mitigate these situations and how to work with people to get back on track or to get their home sold or whatever. So that foreclosure really is a last resort. Now, having said all that, no, it doesn't mean that we don't see what's happening in the market. We do see it. We do see these homes that are selling, home A sold today and then home B literally sells tomorrow for 10% more. We are seeing this. Yep. And it is definitely something to be aware of and something to watch. And yes, this run is good for sellers right now. Is it going to last forever? Unlikely. Nothing
Nope.
does. Is there going to be a soft landing? We hope. Is there going to be a hard landing? We hope not. But, the market will work itself out. Right now, because of the lack of inventory, because there are more buyers chasing homes than there is inventory, that's what's happening. As more homes come on the market, maybe things will settle down a little bit. Now, it's not that homes don't exist. They do. But sellers, for reasons of their own, are choosing to not bring these homes on the market. This is not some sort of conspiracy by builders or anybody. Yeah. This is actually some organic thing going on with sellers that naturally sellers turn over properties, but for whatever reason they have not been turning over properties at the rate that we're accustomed to, and that's the significant reason why we have this imbalance between buyers and sellers.
Okay, there's macro stuff going on as well. The numbers we just showed you, the low number of defaults and all that, it's really nationwide, meaning there aren't any markets that are getting hammered. Everybody's suffering this inventory problem. Real estate agents that we talk to all over the country every day are telling us they have the same issues in their market. And here's the key. You always have, most of the people we have selling are moving. They came here, they're leaving, they're being replaced by somebody who's coming in and they're buying a house, right? But the key is the investors. They, for the most part, are hanging on to houses. Now, you would think, well, wait, why wouldn't they cash in and make some profit on it? Well, there's a couple reasons. First of all, capital gains tax. Every investor who bought more than 3 or 4 years ago is going to make a ton of money. And they're making a ton of money. The other thing is there's uncertainty in the other markets. Crypto today was down 5 or 6%. Potentially stock market, it's probably down 10 to 15% over the last few months. This week it looks shaky now with crypto being down. So there's uncertainty in those markets. So people, a lot of people are saying, hey, I'm going to get my money. They see these high price earning ratios in NASDAQ and tech stocks, and they're like, you know what, I'm going to get my money into something safe. And they don't really want to take it out because they don't want to keep cash because it gets inflated away. They don't want to put it in the stock market, at least not yet. Maybe if it collapses a little more and it stays that way for a while. And they don't want to, necessarily dump it all into crypto because crypto is super
volatile,
yeah. And it's, it's not predictable and they don't really know, you don't know which ones are going to survive. So there are macro things going on, but it's really the investors. And the thing that could possibly trigger, it's not going to be people not working because people have jobs. It's not going to be people who can't afford the mortgage because interest rates are still ridiculously low historically. And it's not going to be, it's going to be investors if they all decide en masse to sell. If some external event causes them I need to sell my investment property. The problem is they're not that organized.
Well, no, but I think you're right as far as that external event. So possibly some sort of legislative action that affects their tax situation would definitely cause investors to consider selling. So, for example, if there's talk that there's going to be higher taxes as far as if you sell your property, then maybe that they would choose to sell sooner rather than later. I have clients now who are choosing to continue renting their properties rather than selling them because it doesn't make sense for them. They have nowhere else to put their money is what they've been saying. But if they thought that, well, if I sell today, I'm going to pay X amount of taxes, but if I sell a year from now I'm going to pay X plus Y in taxes, they would definitely sell today.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is they're also seeing prices, and we may see people profit take, but for the most part, there's not a lot of interest in that. And we would be thrilled because we list properties predominantly, and we work with a lot of investors. It would be business for us. We would list their properties and earn a commission, and so it doesn't really, you know, we don't see this, like we don't see downward pressure right now. Because of all the volatility happening elsewhere. Real estate seems super safe. Historically, it's a very good hedge against inflation.
It is. So, you know, kind of to your point, all the listings I've done in the past year really have not one of them has been an investor. They've all been people relocating. And it's interesting because they've all been relocating out of the area too. They haven't been moving within town.
And that's common for Las Vegas because you know, very few people are, I mean, you have people that are from here that live their whole life here, but you have a lot of people who came here for a job.
Right.
And the job ran its course, or they decided to move back to family or whatever, and they lived here. You know, we just, you know, somebody came out and they were here 20 years and they worked in an industry, basically an industry here for 20 years. And then they just said, hey, I'm selling, I'm leaving. And they left. They like literally, after 20 years of being here, they sold, they moved out of state, and but people are moving into state because we still have, every day we have new companies starting up here, more tech companies that make electric batteries, or, you know, Resort World opens up, or Resort World's building another tower and they need 10,000 more employees.
Right.
And, you know, the casino and tourism industry is extremely resilient because during COVID, which was really, we'll call it the most of 2020 and most of 2021, Vegas killed it. We're the #1 U.S. city for tourists, meaning more people came here for stuff than to go. They went to New York or San Diego. I mean, no one went to New York because there's nothing to do there, right? But they came here. They came to Vegas. Right. So, and because of that, we have more business, more jobs, more people coming here. We have a robust economy, and we don't have the building we had is a percentage of the total number of homes. We don't have them.
Right. And all the buyers that I've worked with for the last, I don't know, year plus have been out-of-state buyers. All
100% out of state.
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna track every 3 months now. We're gonna look at these every 3 months. But I can tell you this: if prices keep going up, there's not going to be any notice of defaults, trustee sales, or anything like that, because they have to equity. There's not like, oh, I can't make a mortgage payment, I get foreclosed. That was the old time when the market went up 2% a year and you were always right. You didn't have enough equity to sell the house, you got foreclosed. Everyone's got equity. You know, if you got married 6 months ago, bought a house, and then getting a divorce and you want to sell the house, you're going to walk away with money in your pocket.
Yes.
Even after everyone's paid.
Yes.
If you need to sell your house, if you completely disagree with us, think the market's overbought and you want to sell your house, give us a call. I'll put our information right here. You can call us and we'll come over there and we'll sell your house for you.
Absolutely. So please, give us a call and let us know that you need to sell your house, and we'll be happy to help you. Leave us your comments. We want to know what you think. What's your take on the market? Subscribe, hit the notification bell, like the video, and we'll see you on the next video.
Great.
Bye.
Bye.